But as long as we say to ourselves we will do as we please, the same thing it falls into our moral structure. The morality of the people is falling, and falling seriously.
Ready now, get ready now. Ready now, get ready now.
Almighty Maat, 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 grant access to the halls of Amenti. Almighty Maat, 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 my soul light forever honors thee.
The clock is ticking, don't be slipping in the darkness. Light as a feather is the heart, let me spark this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I hope all is well. We are coming off the Freedom Under Natural Law 2 conference, and it was an amazing weekend. I have my guest, Derek Bartolocelli. Derek, did I get it right?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah.
Not everyone does too. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on with me. And first off, how did you enjoy the conference as far as the Freedom Under Natural Law 2 conference?
I was vibing on that all weekend long up until today.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, it was great. It was live. It was really eclectic. A beautiful collection of speakers, presenters, artists, music. Yeah, the whole shebang.
Yeah,
you were there. You did a great presentation in the first handful lined up to start it off, and yeah, you did great, brother. Learned a lot.
Yeah, it was a wonderful event. It was a good collection of dance, art, expression, creativity, her knowledge. It was just a wonderful, positive event. So I'm glad that everyone was able to, support. Thanks to Will Keller, Chris Jansen, Leslie Powers, all the people who was behind the scenes who made that event, happen. Everyone who supported and was in the chat. It was an amazing experience. So speaking on other events, there is another online free presentation that is being held this weekend, the Shattering the Illusion event. So if you're not doing anything this Saturday, please check out this wonderful event. I know I am going to be there, and it's going to be another great lineup of speakers. So hopefully people can come out and learn more about, how natural law, how anarchy, objective morality, and how the state and external authority is immoral. And even if you can't join, always check back because the videos will be posted up.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing. They're always in reference. Just like so much of the work of so many people out there, it's all there. It's still there until certain platforms might want to take certain things down, but we got other solutions in the underground. So,
yep. So, Derek, what's going to be the topic for today? I said, what do you want to talk about?
Ooh, yeah. Been looking forward to this for a while, and I was inspired by it through the work that you've done that I stumbled across after the fact that I did a similar subject regarding the glorious, magnificent goddess Maat. And yeah, I was pretty blown away by your presentation and bringing along so many different examples of the other archetypal mythological, or the mythos and the pantheon of all these other goddesses from Greek or Rome or whatever that all correspond to like the same thing, right?
Yes. I never really viewed these, or what are called gods and goddesses, as like real beings. I saw them as symbolic representations of not only ourselves, but as aspects of nature that was depicted in this form for a representation of reality. So it's like in the depiction of Maat and Ishfet, they are one and the same, but just it is what we are going to get as a form of consequence. And that's what I try to portray, it's not that one is good or evil. It's just, it's going to be that repercussion force that we get back as far as what we are putting out. And that's what I try to represent in that presentation. But as far as mythology, mythology in and of itself, I always thought it was a representation of certain aspects of ourselves, of certain archetypes and certain principles that were trying to be displayed as a means to install creativity, means of thought and exploration in a young mind. Because these myths and these these storytellings and these folklores was at a point in time when we didn't have technology, we didn't have all of these things. So we had to engage in these myths and storytellings, which is why whoever was doing these storytellings and, telling these folklores and these myths, they would get involved almost in character to themselves because, imagine it's almost like the campfire. You got kids around, the kids are going to have this imagination. So you have to bring out that livelihood. You have to bring out that energy. You have to get them engaged. You have to make them feel as though they are there because you are installing that into their mind, into that imagination to get them to see themselves as that main character, for them to go out on that journey, for them to be their own hero, for them to understand these universal principles. And that's what I always saw mythology was. And that's why mythology in today's day and age gets a bad rap because, like most people will say, well, the Egyptians just worship the cats and all this, and all this stuff are, how they just worship cows. It's like, no, that's not what it was for. And, the cow was a representation of the goddess form and the feminine form because the moons and the sacred, and how the sacred milk was always the sacred feminine as far as liquid. So, it was always considered sacred. And the moon, the whole symbolism that was always associated with Hathor or with Isis or with Mayat. And Mayat, from my research, is an earlier depiction or a later depiction of Hathor. And Hathor was a later depiction of Tayort. And I would say Tayort has been depicted in many civilizations as this kind of plump, pregnant female, goddess that has been, found on so many, stones and monuments. Now, I would also say that this is also a reflection of the age of Cancer, of man in the age of Cancer, in the great womb. So Mayat is really a deity that has existed in almost every culture because she represented a principle. It was almost like she represented a law, and she represented truth. She represented, her goodness. She was always that positive, attributes of not only of man, but of nature too, because she represented karma. She represented, justice too. But then we always associate karma on the individual forms, which that is true. But remember, we have the microcosm working along with the macrocosm. Karma also happens on the cosmic form. And then that's where I kind of distinguish between Mayat and Themis. How Themis is cosmic justice, like literally, like once you get into the words and what the etymology of these words mean, like you have Themis, which was the good aspect of this cosmic justice. In the collective sense, man is attributing or adhering to natural law. Man is seeking the truth. Man is trying to live in harmony with nature. Man is not, thinking that he is God and encroaching on other people's rights. But in his counterpart in the cosmic sense, you had nemesis. And nemesis simply meant that which is given to you by retribution, that which you are owed, whether good or bad. So pretty much the effects, rather good or bad, because karma can be good and karma can be bad. So in the form of nemesis, we always attribute it to as being negative, because it's going to be chaos. Well, if it comes in that form of chaos, it'll be like the mother having to discipline the spoiled child. Because when this form of nemesis comes, it's usually in a destructive, chaotic form. And that's what I was trying to display, because a lot of people just take Mayat in a positive aspect. You cannot forget her counterpart because they was one and the same. Because ultimately, she was just a representative of first principle or a force within nature.
Yeah, and we can see that as the law of polarity as well, with Maat and Ishfet as just being two polar opposites. We have
Correct.
free will. What are we going to choose? Are we going to align to, the harmony, the balance, the justice, the righteousness, all that good stuff with Maat, or continue to kind of bypass some things, ignore certain things in reality, thinking it's all good, when, yeah, a lot of control going on in this life that we're living in this world. And yeah, the Matrix is one hell of a beast. And how are we going to be properly maneuvering through all this while trying to maintain that feather-like lightness within one's heart?
Right.
Because it seems like in this fallen time matrix and everything seems to be designed to drive things towards, all the negative vibratory attitudes and aspects of the human psyche.
Right. And if you want to talk about living as light as a feather, when you look at the etymology of the word matrix, it simply just means a womb, a womb of creation. So, the whole point of Mayat, was for you to align with her, and you understand that your actions have consequences. So therefore, when it came time for you, for you to be judged, then your soul, your collective experience as far as what you created had to be as light as the feather when it came to the scales of justice. And if they were not, then you would, pretty much would go into the Adayat, and your soul would be pretty much gobbled up by Amet, which was like a crocodile deity that ate souls. Well, that was symbolic of, doing right action, doing right deeds. And then also too, not being entrapped by all of this physicality, like these material possessions. Because when we talk about enlightenment, being light, you mean something that is not being held down, something that has less mass. So think about it. When we get attached to all of these physical things, we don't want to let go. It bogs us down. It weighs us down. Then
Yeah,
we
totally.
don't.
And
Right. Oh, no, sorry. You can go.
man, yeah, you bring up some points that I wanted to mention as well, because yeah, there's so many things in this material world, the physical realm, whatever people want to call it, and we have to take it for what it is, not take it for granted, but also realize that we're multidimensional beings having a human experience here on this 3D planet. Y'all want to be talking about we're going to 5D? Hold on, we got a lot of work to do right here, right now. But it's so easy for people to get caught up in all types of ego attachments and ego identification. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I've done this, I identify with what I like and what sports teams I follow or what job I've had and all that stuff. Are you going to be taking all that stuff with you into the next life? And how is that going to be of value to that? And I mean, do people understand there is a next life also? And have they even reconciled within themselves the eventual time of their life will come to an expiration point?
Yeah.
That was
'Cause
kind of one of the things that really set me off and lit a fire within my heart to really go through this awakening journey. I didn't know about, all this stuff at the time, or terms or whatever, even like natural law or even Mayat or whatever. But checking in on the 2012 Mayan calendar, I was like, holy shit, I feel like I've lived a life of fucking ignorance. And if we're all going to be doing this ascension stuff, I got a lot of homework to do, kind of thing. So went through like a quantum leap of just going down all types of rabbit holes, and also within myself, because that's part of the great work. As above, so below, as within, as without, law of correspondence, as you mentioned earlier, with the micro and macrocosm. So I felt like I wasn't living that much of a righteous life. I felt like I was living kind of more service to self, even though at the time I was married. I had my heart chakra wide open in service to her and service to others, and just on that really great vibe. But I still realized there was a lot of work within myself that I needed to do. And I mean, part of how one needs to lighten up is making that sweet surrender to the unknown, what they don't know, what they haven't done right in this life, all their mistakes, all the people that they treated bad, and all this stuff. How many people have actually done that shadow work, even understanding that people have done wrong unto them unjustifiably or whatever, and they've been a victim of certain things? Have they been able to make that cosmic apology to themselves, for being a victim, but also being the victimizer or whatever, and trying to rectify all these things?
That's interesting you brought that up, because that's what I put down as one of the things as far as what can we do to live as light as a feather is letting go. Letting go of the fear, letting go of the trauma, letting go of the things that may have happened to us, and not being so attached to that. And that's not an easy thing for people to do, because that takes time. That takes a hell of a good amount of time. And that's
And willpower.
and yeah, willpower. It takes knowledge. It takes care. So a lot of people aren't going to want to do that. But it was in these teachings, in the coming to an understanding of these teachings, these principles. These are these 42 positive confessions, because there were actually confessions that they use as far as one could see if they was living a moral life, which I can, hell, I have the shirt now, the 42. Well, these are the negative confessions, because the positive ones are, I have not, done this. Well, the negative ones were, the positive ones, I have done this. Well, the negative ones were, I have not stolen this. I have not, committed sin. I have not committed adultery. So you are affirming it in the negative. So it had a more powerful connotation. So if one was able to, live their life according to these 42 confessions, which the confessions are pretty much just just common sense, understanding. If you have common sense, understanding of natural law and right and wrong, simple, don't take shit that don't, right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how one could, live life, because, in the myths, when Osiris gets murdered, and his brother, Set starts to take over. He is an embodiment of evil, of entropy and chaos. So he kind of changes the way things were. At one point in time, when Osiris, was king, it was considered like the golden years, which Osiris and Saturnus have a lot of similarities. But when Osiris was ruling, then to get into the afterlife, it was pretty much by the way of Mayat, or the teachings of the teachings of Mayat. Because remember, Osiris would have said to have traveled around and to have spread this knowledge. But when his brother took over, he kind of changed it, to where to get into the promised land or the afterlife, instead of living this moral, righteous way, it was all about materialism, greed, wealth, and gold. And it pretty much, changed the way, that the Egyptians would have lived, which, you can just put Pharaoh, a Pharaoh would have came in and changed the way things were done, in Egypt. So you kind of could see like he kind of took it from a Mayat path into a path of Ishfet, because like once you get into the whole materialism stuff, then you kind of become subject and enslaved by time. And that's another thing that people forget about is Mayat was like there's a lot of equivalent with Saturnus too as well, because the god Kronos was always equivalent with time. Well, what else is one thing that's going to always be there? Nature, and justice, natural law is going to always be there. It's one thing we're not going to ever get rid of. Well, Saturnus was, yeah, and Saturnus was all about cause and effect. Reap what you sow, the sowing of seeds, agriculture. Well, same thing with Mayat. It wasn't necessarily about agriculture, but when we're talking about planting of seeds, not only does it have a physical connotation, through agriculture, not only does it have a sexual connotation, but it also, like, what thoughts are you implanting in other people's minds so those seeds can bear fruit, and then therefore those fruits can plant more seeds. So it has a different connotation, So there are a lot of similarities also between Mayat and the god Kronos, which I just see Kronos as another version of natural law. Just Kronos gets a kind of negative connotation, but then again, there's nothing wrong with discipline. There's nothing wrong with those archetypal energies that were always associated with Saturn, if you understand what those energies are. The great teacher, how that which restricts. Well, sometimes we may need that force to, there to make us push harder, push further, but a lot of people don't want to do that hard work. People don't want to develop discipline. Because that's really what Mayat was supposed to teach you.
That word discipline in that video as well.
Oh yeah. Because
is it coming across the same etymology as a discipline, or discipline, or discernment, or even disciple? Are those kind of derived from the same?
Yes. It had almost the same connotation as if you was a disciple. Because remember, when you was a disciple, and I always loved the old school kung fu, a 70s and 80s flicks. Like when you was that disciple, you had that great teacher, and the great teacher would educate you on, like in right and wrong and how to use these skills. Because the whole point, like in those kung fu films, was people had knowledge. You can equate that to occult knowledge or kung fu knowledge, and certain people would use it for good and certain people would use it for evil. Now, if you was that disciple and you had a good teacher, he would teach you how to use that knowledge for good.
Yeah, like you brought up that example, instead of like, even me, I have like a brain blockage sometimes. I think of a disciple and I think of, some religious, connotation of it or whatever. But yeah, Kung Fu, great reference. Shaolin style or not. But we don't have to return to the 36 chambers, Wu-Tang style. But man, I forget, what does Kung Fu mean again? What's the word mean? Do you remember?
I want to say it's like to master art or something like that, to like practice art. Or maybe I'm getting like Kung Fu confused with something else, but it's almost like an art, or to like practice it, or to get obsessed with it to the point to where you just become so good at it. It's almost like a natural skill. Like,
yeah. And that takes discipline, huh?
Yeah.
Those young disciples out there, or old.
Takes focus.
Yeah.
Takes willpower. Takes dedication.
And it's funny because like all these things we're talking about is so much easier said than done, right? It really takes, a lot of time. One of those spiritual currencies, your focus and all that shit. But yeah, like,
but that's another thing.
The great work is work, and waking up is no walk in the park. Enlightening takes a lot of shadow work. You got to lighten up within the temple of your own being. Have you been down there recently, guys? You're like, because I don't know about you, but my awakening was like obliterating to my ego or false identity and all that stuff. I was weeping and like hyperventilating from like crying so much and like repenting so profoundly of so many things, and like, man, there was just so much shit that got, that just like dissolved within me, as far as like all these attachments and lower consciousness miasmic bullshit that's out there in the media or even music or whatever. I just didn't want. I felt just really activated and keyed into the codes of consciousness and natural law and all these things. Like, this is like how we're supposed to be like born into this reality anyways, and even then some, and having more than just 2 strands of DNA activated. So yeah, if you haven't really cried and out in anger, went through the dark night of the soul, had your cathartic moments, there's a lot of work to be done, and like people have to purge out so much of these things. We cannot hold on to these things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like on the lighter side of things, like, yeah, it's not all dismal and teary-eyed shit, man. I cried rivers for the past dozen years or whatever through all this shit. But I've also laughed my ass off so much, like bellyfuls of laughs, like
You
uncontrollable.
got to laugh at it. You got to laugh at it.
Yeah, brother. And but that's like the beauty in the struggle, if you will, and that's why I love hip hop and other music that can. I did a podcast with Fred Gringas at LIBERcast. Alchemized artistry, finding that beauty in the struggle and overcoming all types of adversity. That shows a lot of one's character, being able to be at the place that they are. Like, and I love, your demeanor, cool, calm, and composed, and all this stuff. It's like, we've been through the thick of it and through these rites of passages, which are not fucking easy, But once you come out, oh boy, and there's a whole new beginnings of everything. And even then, this path work is pretty lonely sometimes, and that's why I love getting connected with like-minded folks, and just breaking down concepts, and this is just like therapeutic for me, getting in touch with you and doing this, so yeah, thank you, man. Living that life of gratitude, that's a proper attitude,
Right.
which is
You was talking about that. It just dawned on me because we're talking about, Hamayat. Another one of her principles that's not really talked about is connection. Because if she is a principle, then you have to be connected to first principle, in order for you to live your life through her. And if you've read a lot of the kind of esoteric, like teachings or writings, like even in the Stellar Man, like when he's talking or when he's reading or writing and he's talking hell about Isis, hell, when the goddess would always hell appear, she's always saying, like, hey, I've always been here, like, hey, if you're ready, then I will take you into my arms, but like this will be a serious, her relationship, and I will be there for you to comfort you just as though you are there for me. So pretty much it was always like this kind of comforting thing. Well, if you kind of look at what Hamayat and natural law was always her representative of, how it's like people think that natural law is there to control us. It's like, no, it's there to be that balancing force, that guiding force, that force which guides us in the right direction. It is that nurturing force because nature can be that nurturing force if you are putting that same force out, just as though how nature can be that chaotic force, and it can be that controlling force, and it can be that vengeful force. So yes, it is about how connection. And yes, it is about not only connecting back with ourselves, back to the truth and back to natural law, but also in connecting with others, because that's how we really help solidify, how that true connection on that external plane. We make that internal connection to Hamayat and natural law, and we push that hell outward by making connections with other people.
Yeah, man. How else are we going to do this quantum shift? People have been talking about the 100 monkey effect for how many years, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I love that concept as well. I think it's definitely possible, but yeah, that quantum shift in consciousness on the collective scale ain't there yet, and especially ain't there yet with all the masses of order followers that are out there that are keeping the boot on, you know, humanity's neck and all that disrespect, and all the masses and droves that support all that. You know?
Yeah. All the pieces of shit that work at YouTube that want to censor people's censor people's videos. Those little collectivist fucks. Those little ass wipes. Yeah. Those little immoral pieces of shit that think that they can just push a button and just wipe out your years and years of hard work, like not caring for people's time, or not caring, you know, that people invested hundreds and hundreds of hours into trying to create something, and some little collectivist ass fuck can just put it in the trash bin. Yeah, we've got a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and
But
with all that, I mean, it's like already these people are acting on like from a robotic, you know, state of mind almost, and at the same time they're in bed with AI. So past couple of years, I've been kind of curious as to how much of AI is running the show on whatever platforms, as opposed to, you know, whatever computer nerd coward POS is out there. You know,
oh yeah, yeah. These
making way
AI,
too
because
much
they
money
don't
for
even
what they're doing.
read. Yeah, the AI don't even read your fucking reply because you get the same fucking reply back. You know, like
Yeah,
yeah,
I had
it's
my whole
just
channel deleted for something, and like you don't get like a human response from these people. You know, no, oh sorry, you get a little lip service and
yeah,
community guidelines,
yeah.
which changes on the whim of whatever, you know, moral relative, you know, thing that suits them in this, you know, in these draconian days that we're living in.
Right. But
You know,
it gets back to Maat and Ishfet.
oh,
Maat
mm,
was representative of justice, of good, of free will, of truth, and also of individuality. Because when you are walking that path, she's walking alongside of you. She's there to comfort you, you know, when you fall. She's there to help you when you get up. She's there when you are in your deepest, darkest moment. She's always been there. She will always continue to be there because the truth and nature will always continue to be there, even when we are not there. So this aspect
as will gravity.
of right, this aspect of Mayat can be seen in the path of the individual, how walking their true purpose, how speaking and using their voice, standing out when we see this authority, you know, how this authority, this slave system coming full force. Now let's look at what Ishfet was. She was chaos. She was ignorance. She was disharmony. You know, she was not using free will. You know, so
Yeah,
she was fear. Yeah.
that's when that happens.
So, yeah. And that's what we see in this group mentality. There's no free will, thought. There's no conscious thinking. There's no responsibility. Well, her nemesis would always appear when humanity does not want to take responsibility. And that's what we are seeing now, because the group always says, well, there's someone else there to take this responsibility. You know, oh, well, you know, oh, he'll take responsibility. Oh, no, she will. It's never me. It's never me. Nope. It's always someone
Or
else.
just sweep it under the
Right.
under the rug, and you know, kind of we'll worry about it later. Let the, you know, next 100 generations worry about it or whatever.
Yeah. And you see,
It's fine, you know, it's all right.
yeah. And this is what the whole point of the collective karma was, from a form of Mayat and Themis, and from a form of Saturnus, you know, of Cronus. You reap what you sow. Also, too, the sins of the father will be laid or rested upon the son. Like karma doesn't always work from, you know, from like me to you, like there is a thing that's as generational karma too. Like karma works on a lot of fucking different scales, you know. So
On a
like people,
multidimensional level, for sure.
yeah, like people have just this single notion of it. They don't see it from a collective standpoint. They don't see it from a generational standpoint. They're just seeing it from how one to one, and it's like that's okay, but that's not far enough. Like that's not good enough. We got to constantly continue pushing our understanding and conscious, but just always know you will never ever be above. I said, Mayat, you will never ever be above the teaching of natural law. You will never ever be above the teaching of karma. They will always be above you. Yep.
Always.
The teachings, yep, will always be above you. Always.
Man. Yeah, so are we going to be a slave to our own mental conditionings? Keep going following Ishfet? Or obviously staying aligned to the good old divine and not really following the herd? Because, Brandon, I'm sure you've noticed and taken a big, underwhelming look around the world, if you will, and realize that there's around 8 billion people breaking natural laws on a daily basis. And yeah, we have to understand that and not always, hold it as some kind of chip on our shoulder and have this weight on our backs because, we're fighting the good fight and all this stuff. But at the same time, like, how are we still going to find that balance of keeping the proper attitude about things and not, letting this affect, the weight of your heart that's going to, tip the scales not in your favor type of thing, Because you mentioned the first principles, like mentalism. First, it's all about our state of minds. And if we're not in control of it, something else is.
Right. Yeah. And then also too is you got to figure out what drives you. You got to figure out, like what your purpose is, or like figure out what your passion is too. Because we look at this work like it has to be something that's negative, something that brings us down. You can still make it fun too. As you are learning, you are still creating. So you have to put it in a way that you find the most appealing towards you. Just like at the conference, it was art, it was music, it was dance, it was video lectures, then it was presentations. So
yeah, it was
you have to
it was solutions.
right,
Leslie Powers
yeah,
put together a great presentation.
yeah,
Having all these things like way outside of like the conspiratorial realm that we all know. Hey, that's part of the rites of passage. That's like first veil shit. We're not supposed to be dwelling on all this stuff and keep commentating on these things. We got to bring more to the table and really put all this knowledge in proper use with wisdom in action, right?
right.
But
And then
yeah,
also too,
it's not going to happen with people participating in the madness and like, yeah, you're talking about sowing the thought and all these things, and what are we consuming on a daily basis that's weighing us down also, and what are we
good point.
participating in? What are we evoking? What are we splurging on our thoughts and emotions, that type of thing? What kind of food are we ingesting? What kind of media are we ingesting? Social media as well.
You're diving into my
How
notes.
riled up are people getting over social media? That's such a trigger happy
Yep.
clusterfuck of shit shows all over the place and echo chambers galore to stand on your funny little soapboxes or whatever, right? But yeah, also we got to keep in mind of what friends are around us. Who are we having around us? Are we living in a toxic environment on a daily basis, or in the workplace or whatever? And can you alchemize your situation to where it's not really that toxic because you're able to build up whatever kind of mental, emotional, alchemical filters, to kind of, you're breathing in all this negativity, but you're able to exhale that positive good shit.
Yeah.
And be
Like in a way
that
to try to
shining light
balance it
and
out.
example for others to, notice
Yeah.
Like people have noticed me do these things in the past, and I'm like, wow, this shit actually works. And I didn't have to go into any kind of rabbit hole bullshit discussion of anything. Awesome. You know, that definitely helps. But, there's so many avenues and approaches of how we can, be a catalyst for people to snap out of it any which way. We just got to keep
Yep.
chipping at it on a daily basis,
Right. One of the points that you had brought up, which was one of the points that I wanted to talk about, is where is the individual getting their information from? That's what a lot of people don't really think about. Where are you getting your information from? Are you getting it from the mainstream sources? Are you getting it from Facebook? Are you getting it from TikTok? Oh my gosh, because if you get it from TikTok, then there's a problem. I mean, like, are you getting it from the radio? And even some alternative sources aren't as good as they used to be because they're going to the same sources that the mainstream media, and they're just calling that shit alternative. And then two, are you going to the sources that they aren't telling you to go to? Three, are you just taking in everything because you understand how your mind really works, and then you know it's going to take time for you to filter that out? And see, that's the thing is people aren't really ready to go through that great purge because Autumn used to call it the purge, because I know what it's like to go through that. Because when I started going through my journey, as I was taking in his information, I started to weed out a lot of the conspiratorial stuff because it just kind of kept you in that loop of fear. A lot of these sites and sources that just have ads, like being fucking displays, got that shit out. I didn't want nothing come in my consciousness that I pretty much couldn't control myself. And then two, you brought up the whole controlling of the environment. How I talked about that in behaviorism, the one that YouTube loved and took down in 4 hours. And I talked about how, behaviorism, yeah, it goes beyond just the psychological realm, but they're literally controlling the environment. We're in these like square boxes all day, like these monitors, squares, our squares are rectangles. Like,
yeah, they love to keep us on this, base level consciousness, squared up bullshit
on the square,
on the chessboard of duality when we're, multidimensional beings beyond duality,
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah. Yep. And all the technology, it has to do with cubes, boxes, squares, rectangles, because people are blockhead. They put that box onto their consciousness. They don't think outside, figure out the box. They don't want to ask questions. They don't even want to use their voice because they put the mask on, fucking like it's just crazy. But, those are whole different topics that we can talk about, and the symbology behind it too, because like people don't understand like the mockery and symbolism that is behind it, because earlier I brought up time, and how people get entrapped by time. Well, that's one of the main things that's weighing them down because, they're in that rat race. They're like, oh, well, I've got to do this, or I've got so much time to do this, Well, even in the myths of Kronos, he even got enslaved by time too, because he couldn't be murdered. So, Zeus imprisoned him in Tartarus, so he was pretty much enslaved by time too. So time will enslave anyone because we start to become attached and we start to fall into this illusory mindset. Well, I've got to take all this stuff, I've got to hoard, I've only got so much time, pretty much like the squirrel who's trying to get all the nuts, and he's trying to put them all in his mouth. Like, that's us. But look, in any situation, when you are losing time, what does that cause psychologically? It creates stress, because if you are drowning, you're running out of time. If you're not breathing, you're running out of time. If you're starving, you're running out of time. Time is the one thing that all life wants more of, is the one thing that we all seek. But yet the one thing when we don't have, we start to panic. We start to get stressful. So just imagine we're in this rat race. We're chasing this illusion of time, which you're never going to catch. So then therefore you create more stress. You create more panic. You create more anxiety. Then what does that do internally?
Weighing you down.
Yeah. And then I also call these the trappings of life, because we're all conditioned. Hey, you're to go to school. You're to go to college. You're to get a 9-to-5 job. Hey, you're to get married. Hey, you're to have kids. I'm just saying Like that sounds like a big trap to me because you're putting yourself in the system, you know. And mind you, I'm not saying that having kids is bad. Like I'm not saying that. I'm not saying if two people want to live their lives together. Like I'm not saying that. But the problem is it's a threesome, and you bring in the government, you bring in the state, and then that's where the trappings happen. And like that's the problem because I'm not getting in any relationship with any external help. External authority, but you know we are conditioned to buy into all of this stuff, and then it entraps us. It keeps us conditioned, and then it also keeps that cycle repeating itself. Then therefore, our kids repeat that same cycle. Then our kids put their kids in these government indoctrination camps, and then our kids go and join these 9-to-5 slave jobs, and then it's just rinse and repeat, and then bam, it's programming, it's conditioned, it's that rat. It's that rat wheel over and over.
Yeah, and to continue with the analogy, I mean, this wheel is spinning so fast, and it makes it hard and daunting for people to jump off. And yeah, it might be a painful leap or landing, right? Metaphorically speaking, or whatever. Financially, people want to, not be a cog within the wheels of the beast, whatever. Sure, yeah, you might have to take a loss.
Yep.
I've made the sacrifices. I've been in some, fortunate situations, with my wife before, but I was making less than 10,000 euros a month or a year, easy, But I was like happy as could be, pretty much, especially breaking the chains of my own mental enslavement.
Yeah.
Just being on that vibe and like, I don't know, there's something that is so active within that just keeps, replenishing energy within you once you're really in tuned and aligned with natural law. I don't know, just going through the principles, you got your mind right, you
It's that inner
understand the
knowing.
correspondence of
Yeah.
everything, even the correspondence between the mind within your neocortex and the whole limbic, whatever, and the inner mind of your heart and all this stuff. And how are we vibrating that beautiful love energy? And how are we kind of in harmony with the songs of these divine principles and being able to ride the rhythms and not having such a discord of that flow and having it more consistent where there's the less and less ebb within those flows, right?
Right.
And how are we, having that hieros gamos of the balance of the masculine and feminine in regards to the law of gender, right? And how are we finding ourselves within the laws of polarity as well? We understand so much of how the manipulators are working and how
we see
people are
that on the
so
physical
polarized
plane.
beyond belief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been pushed on on the physical plane to an extreme. Like I never thought that they could take the law of polarity and gender and push it to the level that they have, because it is mesmerizing. I didn't think that it was humanly possible. They've pushed them on the extreme so far that they got one gender thinking that it's another completely gender. It's like, wow. Yeah. Kind of just had a brain fart there, but
Yeah. But yeah, it takes a lot of courage to step away from the system and challenge your beliefs and conditioning that you've been in. And even things that are, I mean, this is no easy task. This is not, just, a couple of days or a week, or you go to therapy sessions for even a year. This is involving your entire life and how you're going to dedicate your life to that. And would you not feel comfortable wrapped up in the feathered arms of Maat? Has anyone ever thought about giving her a hug? I think she's lonely sometimes, She needs more people aligned to.
She's very lonely.
That divine everything,
Yeah.
But we're living in a world where a lot of this is happening as well. And this has happened to me 3 times at least within the past 3 years. And I've had to go through so many more ego deaths and inner work and all this stuff. My heart has been shattered several times and palpitating and worried if I'm in some kind of broken hearted syndrome, because that is an actual thing. So I've been able to put myself together time and time again because I know this is never the end, and that you just got to keep going. And yeah, do you have any advice for those? Because I mean, like, how can a broken heart be measured on the scale of Maat? You know, it's not whole or whatever, if you will. There's
Right.
still it's still healing, and there's still unresolved issues within that, and that's just part of the great work of just going back to self, going back to that self-love.
Yeah.
Is that not always there? Did we forget about that sometimes? Can we just go back to source as well? You know, the great womb of creation, or even our own mothers that gave us life, you know?
Yeah.
So much stuff to be grateful for, you know? It's easy to lose sight of these things. But yeah, we do have to have a good amount of temperance with these things, right?
Yeah.
Water representing emotion, you know? And how are we, you know, let's say you're a hermit on a boat because you're by yourself and all this, and water represents emotion, and the water is of your making. And how are you navigating the waters of your the currents of your emotion, and how are you able to calm those waters, you know? And yes, we can have ripple effects of our own waters, you know, vibrating out to other people for the good or the better. So, and yeah, the universe is always watching, always listening. It's always going to be there. Are we going to have it by our side? Are we going to be confident walking, even with a pep in your step, if you've done the work and realizing that, hey, I'm living that right life and I know the universe has got my back. So let's fucking do this shit, you know?
Yeah.
Are you familiar
I
with
know that feeling.
the fuck yeah, you do. Yeah. And I appreciate you incarnating on this planet, man. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. Are you familiar with the 8 ways of the Buddha or Taoist teaching or whatever in regards to right mindfulness, right view, right intention, right speech, right
Yes.
action, right livelihood, right effort, and right concentration? I mean, this is the wheel that we can grab onto within ourselves and have as that compass navigating this reality, maneuvering through
Yes.
the matrix, you know, as unscathed as possible. Because, you know, shit ain't easy, man, you know, but
Yes. Um, I am familiar with those. I've read those books and I actually like those teachings. That's some of the aspects of Buddhism that I actually enjoy. Now, mind you, that seems to get left out a lot in Buddhist teachings, but yes, those core principles
right.
I think are are timeless. Like to me, like those teachings should be common sense, um, and subscribed to by most individuals, if not all for individuals, because to me that's just a simple, basic way of living. And then you talked about a fractured heart. We are all fractured at some way, from rather it being emotionally, we are fractured psychologically, so that's something that we are all having to deal with. We are all having to put those pieces together. The best way that I tell people, if you are going to do that, or if you want to do that, you have to be honest with yourself and try to keep your
First
word
rule,
as much as
man.
possible.
Yeah, don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't lie to yourself. And like
Emphasize.
literally, yeah, try to keep your word as much as you can. If you say you're going to do something, you do it, and you do it as best as you can. You got to have a different outlook of how you see yourself and how you see the world, you know, and you really have to start to change that, because if you just see yourself as a victim, you know, or what can I do, or you know, what are some solutions that I can do, I see that as not being in a very empowering mindset, and I see that as very weak, rather than the individual who says, okay, here's what I'm going to do, or here's what I am doing. So you really have to have that shift, that change in your mental focus. You know, you got to silence that mind chatter. You know, like we all have all these thoughts that are constantly going, you know, through our minds. And you add social media on there, you add TikTok, you add hell, the YouTube shorts. I mean, like people got to wonder why all these entertainment videos are getting shorter and shorter, because people can't focus. And hell, when you can't focus, you can't take in information as good, you know, like it's just not possible. You're not going to take in information in a TikTok video for as you would in a 4-hour presentation. It's just not possible. So
no, and it sucks because like there's some good content out there on
yeah,
TikTok, you know, truthers
yeah,
doing that good, and we get that, but you know, other
right,
people aren't gonna get it within, you know, that little blip of time.
right,
And their attention span is already at the level of a goldfish anyways, by
right.
design, you know? So it's
TikTok
really
is
hard
good
to
for.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. No, just
Oh, you're
add this.
good.
TikTok is good if you want to take one of your videos and take a good part and snip it out and post it somewhere to get other people, you know, like, hey, you know, like here's just a little sample. If you want to go, you know, to this main video, that is a good way to use TikTok. But 99.99% of the people are using it for straight garbage, dance, trash
Yeah,
videos.
vanity and all that shit.
And
Wow.
it's really sad
It's
because,
all the kids doing it too,
yeah,
man.
oh,
Teenagers. Oh,
I
dude.
see it every time I go to work. Like you see these kids over there and they're all lined up and they all have
Really?
the phone. I'm like, go create your own dance. It's one thing if you create your own dance and then you post it, but when everyone's doing the same fucking dance, that's what I find to be
Really? Oh,
extremely hell annoying. And then the parents are cheering it on.
of
Like you
course,
want to talk
yeah.
about you want to talk about living as light as a feather. Don't be a bad
Please.
parent. Like don't be a
Yeah.
bad parent, because hell, once again, the karmic the sins of the father shall be rested upon the son. A lot of parents get stressed because subconsciously they know that they are shitty parents. They know that they have not been a good parent. They know they have not been a conscious parent. They know they have not set their child up to be as successful in life and in the world, especially in today's day and age. So therefore, that creates stress and trauma because in the back of your mind, you're like, well, you know, what if this happens to my child? You know, what if he goes to college? You know, what if he gets arrested? You know, what if it's all these what ifs? And we all know that the mind can take a what if and it can just start creating, man. It will be like a damn spider's web. So
And that's the problem because people will sorry to interject real quick, but you bring up a great point that people are, you know, parents are actually projecting their own fears onto their kids in the unconscious, subconscious realm. And that what that's actually doing is creating
yeah,
energetic patterns sent out into the morphogenic field of potentialities that could actually happen. And if
right.
they're concentrating and focusing on that much more, the potentialities are going to come, you know, closer to actual happenings, you know?
It's like it's like a different form of magic. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
much what it's like. You know, it's like you are putting the energy out there, and you're hoping that how that energy comes back to you. Like that's pretty much what you just said. This is another form of
Yeah, and
magic.
we can do it on the flip as well, you know,
Yeah,
pre-paving, you know, your road on this journey and what you want to do and how you picture life in the next 5, 10 years, next month, whatever, you know, what kind of work does someone want to, you know, actually do? And I've been going through this myself because I've been like a mystic journeyman vagabond traveling around like 30 different places for the past, you know, 3 years after being divorced and all this stuff.
yeah,
And I'm pretty much taking it in stride for the most part. But yeah, it's like having to reshuffle based on where I'm at and all this stuff and figuring out, all right, what can I do like to make some kind of financial gain? Because I'm kind of draining my savings or whatever. It's
yeah.
just like so much stuff to consider, but at the same time, I'm not letting it weigh me down. I'm still just having all these things around as possibilities, potentialities, and I understand life is beautiful, even though it's really, really, really fucked up because of all the scarcity-based mind control, to say the least, and social conditioning. But yes, I wanted to bring up time as a perfect example of this scarcity-based mind control that Bob Tuskin spoke about. I don't know if you were familiar with his work. He was in that Free Your Mind conference years ago.
Yeah.
Did a great presentation on the whole scarcity-based mind control stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, like, we can step out of this linear bullshit, you know, manufactured, man-made, manufactured even, or whatever, measurement of what we call time, you know, on the 3D level. You know, we can be the non-linear, multidimensional beings that we're, you know, supposed to be, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But it's all about, you know, chipping away on doing the inner work and keep finding ways to level up within yourself. And we were talking earlier about, you know, we want to, you know, explore more about the tarot and astrology and all these things that are in line with natural law. You know, these things are such great companions and way showers and teachers for us to understand, you know, and align
Right.
with, and just it just creates so many more open doors within oneself, you know.
Yeah. And to me, from what I've seen, the best way for humanity to open up this door is starting from the individual level and coming to an understanding of what is right and what is wrong and the teaching of natural law. Like, to me, that is the best way, because we are talking about a shift in consciousness. We are not going to get to that shift in consciousness in 5D, 4D, whatever the new D is, whatever the new flavor is, without an understanding of morality. Like, if we can't learn to live with each other, how can we manifest ourselves on higher plane to learn to live with whatever exists out there? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen. So like, everyone's talking about, you know, a shift and, you know, or some ascending, but they're not really talking about how right and wrong. They're not talking about how natural law. Even the people who will even bring up how Mayat or use Mayat, a symbolism, never really get into the aspects of the representation of the meaning of natural law, of cause and effect, of karma. Like, they won't even like get into that.
Real karma, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Way too much
it's
new
like,
age fluff around there, man. You know what's up.
yeah, a lot of people
They
still
don't
think
even
that
think
she was a
that
real deity.
right and wrong actually exists, right? A lot of these
Yeah, I
people.
know. It's people would be surprised on, we have 8 billion people, or close to 8 billion people on this planet. How many people will regurgitate the same answers? Oh, there's no such thing as
Yeah.
right and wrong. Or what about the roads? Oh, well, who will be there to tell us what to do? Like, it's the same programming that gets regurgitated from the collective group. It doesn't matter where you are at, doesn't matter what time, it's the same garbage that gets regurgitated. You know, like, you just start trying to
Projectile
get them to think.
vomited.
Yeah. Like, it's like you just try to get them to think outside, like, of the box. It's massive fear. It like it's massive, like, it's like a defense mechanism, a program that's been installed by the social engineers that they all just will go to. It's like an antivirus fucking reflection from a computer, you know, like when you get that message popping up. It's like, that's how people are, man. It's like, freaking, they just go to fucking, you know, oh, fucking let me deflect. Like, it's just all these excuses, man. And when
Collective knee jerks.
yeah, and the simple answer is just understand how what's right, just understand what's wrong, to understand how what we can do and understand what we cannot do. And sadly, too many people are still supporting that which we cannot do. And that was one of the teachings in the principle of Mayat, is not only are you not doing it, but you are not giving energy to it and you are not supporting it. That's what people seem to forget. That's what people fail, because they just see things on the physical, material level. You know, and they think, well, I'm not the one who's actually fighting the war. Yeah, but you were going out there and voting to put these fucking crooked politicians in to send us to war and all these freaking bankers. So you're still
Yeah.
supporting it at some level.
Perpetuating the false dogmatic belief that in authority, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, so
But yeah. Sorry. You're good.
oh no, freaking you good. Cause I've still got some more other things to kind of talk about, you know, as far as trying to live as light as a feather. Because hell, I brought up earlier the whole trappings of life, but how many people want to live a simple, easy life? Like not many people, unfortunately, because they want to have that big house. You know, you know, they want to have that Instagram, health sensation, you know, where you're constantly having to, you know, like keep your program, keep your program profile updated. You know, like you're the talk of the town. It's like you have to be, you know, have that gossip. It's like, no, that's too much. Live a simple, easy life, because all of that is going to bring in stress because you're always trying to fit into someone else's perspective of you rather than fitting in based on how you truly feel and who you truly are. So it is in living that simple life, you can bring so much of this weight, you know, like off your back. Her material possessions. I mean, you know, how we talked about that, you know, how not just being attached to them, but in owning, you know, so many goods and stuff. Because the problem with that is you have all these goods, you got to maintain these goods, you know, because there is an inevitable law that no matter what the physical thing is in reality, it's going to break down. It's going to manifest chaos. It's going to get dusty. It's going to start to break down. It's got to be maintained. That's everything. So the more physical things that you have, the more time and attention you have to pay to those things, because that inevitable law is going to occur. Things are going to break. Things are going to get dusty. Things got to be clean. Things are going to rust. So you have to pay more attention, time, maintenance. So you would think that logically, you know, we would want to have as less shit as possible. But unfortunately, through her programming, social engineering, and propaganda, we think we need to have more and more shit. You know, we've got to have more shoes. We got to have more smartphones. You know, hell, I just went and got this latest phone 6 months ago, but no, I've got to have the latest one. You know, hell, I've got to have 5 flat screen televisions, and like we're all guilty of it, you know, to a certain extent. But we're just wearing ourselves down, just more clutter, buying, consuming. What does it mean to consume something? You're destroying. We consume food, like you're taking it in, you're destroying it. So what does it mean to be a consumer? You're just destroying shit. That's all it means. We're just destroying shit.
Man, yeah. Hammer on the nail, man. Yeah, real talk. And going into the more metaphysical, mental plane of things, you know, like people are consuming all types of filth, media, stuff, whatever, malarkey. And there's so much clutter within, you know, their mental body, emotional body, because
Yeah.
we all know that, you know, a lot of this media and shit is designed to pull at so many heartstrings, right? And through this false knowledge, they're gaining this false sense of care, you know, and that isn't serving them much good. And that's going to continue to have their hearts weighed down. You know, it's not a pure channel of energy. It's contrived. It's controlled to on a level that they don't understand, and they haven't, you know, reconciled or, you know, even recognized these things. You know, otherwise they wouldn't be paying attention to them. You know, and even though a lot of us have stepped aside from all this stuff, you know, part of the inner work is, you know, we're not gonna get to some like arrival point and be like, okay, we're 100%, you know, mind control free, and you know,
Yeah.
I got my 12 strands of DNA all activated and good to go. You know, I can live for 400 years now. You know, but yeah, there's still much more to just our soul journey after this life, or you know, in the next, you know, umpteen dimensions or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But we just need to still, be mindful in the here and now, be present now, have that true cosmic care now.
Yes.
And if you don't, we got to just build up to it, find ways to dig down within, keep chipping away, you know, be
Yeah.
your own archaeologist within the depths of your soul, yo. What? Be your own ancient astronaut or whatever, Did you ever
Yeah.
watch Ancient Aliens, by the way, back in the day?
Yeah. The earlier seasons, I meant like early, like
Yeah, yeah.
2011,
I'm talking about like the first
2012.
3 or 2. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And that was when I got
With
rid
our
of
lovely
the
famous hair
television.
guy, whatever his name is.
Oh, what is it, George Tsoukalos or George
Yeah, good
Tsoukalos?
memory, man,
Yeah.
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 Honestly, that was one of the launching pads that threw me onto the whole rabbit hole searching because I was never satisfied with all their, speculations and, cutting it short to where like, oh man, I'm sure there's so much more out there, but that really had my curiosity peaking, way beyond, trying to look way beyond what they were talking about. But it brings up so many great points of, so many sacred places on Earth that we still know little of and how they were built and all these things. It's
Yeah.
really fascinating and understanding the Earth energy grid and the vortices and ley lines and all that stuff.
Yeah. The ley lines. Yeah. Yeah. That's been a topic that has always fascinated me. I've just kind of put it on the back burner just because of everything that's happening. I feel like there are
Yeah,
certain
and there's
topics that,
priorities. I feel you.
that are more, prioritized. It's like, yeah, I would love to talk about, the origins of our species. That's something that has always, sparked my curiosity too. Plus, catastrophe as far as
Yeah.
in the heavens. That's something that has always sparked my interest too. I always love Emmanuel Velikovsky's work, and then something else that has always sparked my interest. And if anyone knows more, hell, about this topic, but the passing of this passing of the torch between Kronos and Zeus, or between Saturn and Zeus, because there's always this passing of a torch between this father-like deity and this son-like deity. So I've always kind of saw this as like two means happening. It was symbolic of a shift in consciousness, because you have this like father-like deity who kind of ran things a certain way, who had his own code and had his own law. But then you have this kind of young, vibrant, like kind of youthful young male coming in, and like this new breed always kind of wants to bring their own laws and way of things. So I kind of see this as a shift in change in consciousness, and then also too, kind of see it as there was a war in the heavens. There was a change in the heavens. And ancient man saw something in the actual heavens that traumatized him and created so much chaos and so much fear. And that inevitably had consequence, and it changed our solar system forever.
Mm. That's interesting. It reminds me of a. Are you much into the lore of the Rings? Not
The
the
original
bunk ass
version.
power
Yeah.
coming out right now. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
old
not the
school,
new
like
shit.
even like,
Yeah.
oh god, please no. But anyways,
Yeah.
the whole inception of Middle Earth, I think it's Luvatar was the creator. I don't know if you read this Similarian. I think that's how I pronounce it. I'm not a huge nerd on this stuff. I haven't even read that book, but I've looked at a lot of videos about it, and it's really fascinating. And one of the things that just really struck me in regards to just applying certain allegories, like the mythos of what you were talking about in the beginning, right? J.R.R. Tolkien has some really phenomenal allegories in his writings.
Yes.
And the whole story with the Luvatar is that he pretty much created Middle Earth and the realms in between simply through song or vibration, and obviously I'm sure that's the logos and where we get that interpretation from
Yeah.
traditional teachings and all that stuff. And what happened and where you get the Saurons and before him was Morgoth is that, the first, entity, souls with an ego or whatever you want to call it, they were aligned to his song. They were aligned to natural law. They were aligned to Maat. And there was one person that wanted to take it upon himself to kind of create new sounds or whatever that were not on the frequency, and it created a discord, and that created the fall of grace of Morgoth, in a sense. And I'm kind of paraphrasing a lot of the whole story anyways, but it's not about that. It's the allegory of just how, if we're not in a line and we're not singing those sacred songs and being on that frequency, then there is discord, there is disharmony.
Yeah.
So how do we understand all the lyrics and melodies to the song, right? Well, yeah, we need to go into all these things that Brandon's talking about, that have these allegories and stories and knowledge about the teachings of Maat or Ishfet, and all the teachings that encompass natural law, universal law, cosmic law, karmic law, the good old codes of cosmic consciousness, right? And objective morality, right? All to prioritize towards the harmony of the collective as well, because we're in a state of slavery, and it's really weighing down everyone to a good degree. But you and I just kind of going through it, right? But
Yeah.
I'm trying to get more folks withdrawing from participating in all this, all these, cycles of madness.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, man. And what'd you
You
think
can't.
about the? Oh yeah, and real quick, just to finish off, in the book The Hobbit, or even Lord of the Rings, Tom Bombadil, he wasn't in the movie, and that's a real shame. But he's in the book. Are you familiar with that character? He was like
No.
the physical manifestation of like the creator Luvatar, in a sense. I mean, that's kind of a theory, but it's cool to run with it, because he was one that he lived with the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, all that stuff. And he basically spoke in song. Everything that came out of his mouth was melodic and harmonizing, and had rhymes and all this stuff. And it's not like
He was like a
people have to
bard.
be like that, right? But it's an archetype of such a beautiful way to live, and humbling oneself to. And yeah, we can see it as fantasy or whatever, and people use that as too much escapism, right? But if people really take these things to mind and heart, and actually want to apply some of these things into their life, I mean, it's so beneficial. Of being connected to nature at any kind of level that's close to that, walking around just barefoot, for starters,
Yeah.
just like little things. Going up to the trees when you're going out and walking around, just say hello. What's going on? Hey, thanks for this fresh ass air. I'm loving this pranayama, yo.
Yep.
Thank you. When was the last time you wrapped your arms around a tree as it was your lover? That kind of stuff,
Tree
It's
huggers
not
get
like you have to have that Eros energy behind it, but just
tree huggers get a
agape,
bad
yo.
name. Yeah, it's like the people who have gardens, and they go out there and they talk positive to have their gardens, and they see a increase, or how they see a result. Which this has been proven that voices do have energetic consequence. How this has been proven with the whole water experiment. Like you use positive word forms, and they manifested these positive frozen water molecules, and then it worked that same way. So yeah, how this has been proven. It was called the Yamoto water experiments, and this has been done also with, I want to say, rice.
Dude, did you ever catch that emoto when we emote?
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Hell, emotion. Yeah, because we can project
Anyway,
our
sorry.
emotions out in our voices. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's Victor Schauberger's work and all that stuff, which I haven't read into. But yeah, I mean, like, there's all these things that we all want to look into. But yeah, it would be great to prioritize towards a freer society for sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the price of living is preposterous,
Yeah.
Yeah, not making life simple at all, and
Yeah.
it's making
A
people's
simple.
time dwindle as well.
Yeah. You live within your means. You live according to your principles. You know what you stand for, and just go out and live your life. You figure out what your purpose is. You figure out what makes you happy, and if you fall, you have her. You have Mayat. You have the truth to pull you back up. And here's a real world way that people can actually practice if they want to kind of free themselves of that burden. Most people don't practice conscious breathing. Most people aren't consciously in control of their attitude of their own self in large quantities of the day because they are just stuck in subconscious, health programming and repetition. Well, if you can learn to control your breath, then you can learn to control your mindset. You can learn to control your attitude, and you can literally damn near start to change your own internal health environment. And conscious breathing is something that I've practiced for at least 6 or 7 years. And I've actually seen a shift because once I start to become consciously health aware that I'm starting to go through that survival, health internal health mechanism of fight or flight, like I'm starting to get freaking agitated, then I know, okay, if the situation is right, then I can start to practice my conscious breathing. Now, mind you, if the situation is definitely right, I may need that survival shit to kick in, but if the situation ain't right, then I'll practice that conscious breath. And that conscious breath is a simple 2 mid inhales and 1 long exhale. I have practiced this so many times. I do that 3 times. It'll balance me and pull me back to reality. Like if I'm getting agitated, if I'm getting excited, you practice these breathing techniques. Well, there's other techniques, how that you can do. But what I'm trying to get people to understand is there are actual techniques that one can practice. Certain modalities. These techniques have been around for years and years. So if you are finding yourself, to where you are starting to lose control, okay, what's preventing you from learning techniques that, that's going to keep you in that harmonious state? And for me, conscious breathing is a simple one because that can be done anywhere. It's just a simple, I am focusing on my breath and I am consciously aware of my breath because most people breathe subconsciously because you can't breathe and talk at the same time. So, you're going to start to hold your breath at some point. And that's what most people did when they was a child because a baby can't cry and breathe at the same time. And that's why the baby cries. And then there's that pause, had to take a breath and then it starts crying again. And that's the pause. Yeah, because that's when we start to learn to hold, held for our breath. So breath work is very vital because then you're getting the right oxygen and energy into the body. And then that gets pushed back out in the internal trivium, the intake, processing, and outtake. So that's one way that people can really learn to start to have that mental clarity. And then, of course, you put that on top of meditation, the balancing of the left and right hemispheres of the brain. There are just so many things that people can do to really pull some focus, pull some power back within themselves. It's just not what can I do, is what am I going to do?
Yeah, man. Well said. And you ticked the box off of, that pranayama, baby. Fuck yeah. Breath work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's helped me out in a lot of ways of just, catching those ego impulse, reactive, states or, like feeling that inner wheel turning too fast, and like, whoa, hold up, I'm starting to get a little agitated or whatever. And as much as we want to say it, it's like, and master certain things are still going to come up in our daily lives, or even a month, a year from now, that are going to trigger us, and we just got to be ready and keep that spiritual armor, righteousness, nice and snug within ourselves, and realize like, yeah, we got this. It's temporary. There's a solution to these things, and we ain't gotta overstress and overcomplicate any kind of situation. Take a nice deep breath, take a step back, and kind of see it from anew, and kind of, and that really like suppresses like these explosions of emotion sometimes, especially when you first a first reaction or first impression of a certain thing
Yeah.
that we don't like or whatever. It's like, okay, hold on,
Yeah, those
think
emotions can
about it.
come hard. And that's the thing. It's like most people don't want to experience these hell emotions. And like that's the part that makes you human. And mind you, in the past 2 weeks, I've experienced a lot of positive emotions just because things in my personal life have been going in the way that I want them to, because I, started creating earlier, and now I'm seeing things kind of play out. But it's creating a lot of positive thank you, yeah, a lot of positive emotions inside of me. But the way that I'm feeling is fucking fantastic. So it's like, why would anyone not want to feel how this way? But then those emotions kind of get put back in check when you see the grand scheme of things, and you're like, fuck, man, we're still fucking enslaved. It's like, damn, shit still ain't changing. So those emotions get put back in check real quick. But it's just those emotions are there for us to experience. They're not there to be suppressed. They're not there to be repressed. They're not there to be ignored. They're not there to be eliminated. It's being a responsible individual and learning to deal with those emotions. Like that's what it boils down to.
Radar as well,
right? Yeah.
Of course, things are gonna not sit well with us if harm is being done to us. Well, that's what the emotional response is kind of there for as well. But it takes a lot of mastery to develop certain proper a higher ability to respond in regards to responsibility, right? And not not accumulate too much karmic debt with certain things, because I mean, there's a certain fine line between self-defense and actually overdoing it almost, like say someone's trespassing on your yard. Well, that's a natural transgression, but you ain't got to go shoot them dead for it, right? It's like we have a neocortex. We're beyond the fight or flight modalities. We can raise the frequency and kind of keep things conscious.
I would say, if that was me, and if it was a Vatican priest or a politician crossing my yard,
have at it, man.
They may get a different they may get a different reaction than the average Joe. I'm just throwing it out there. So the average Joe, but if it's someone who's like really doing harm to the human species, a really ignorant fuck, oh man. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, but that's something that I do struggle with, because like we see what's going on, and it's striking that balance factor, and then being honest with yourself too, to say like, hey, I'm not just going to stand there and just continue to let these things go on. And that's where a lot of people fall victim to. It's like, if I had the chance to take out the individuals who are doing this to us, yes, I would, but I also still understand that those individuals would just be replaced because people really haven't changed their consciousness yet. So it's a double-edged sword. Even if we took out every single individual who was doing this to us, you would have to take out damn near 99% of the population, because it's the 99% of the population that is doing this to us, because they are the ones who have the true power. It is the individual in society that has the true power. So that's where I struggle at sometimes.
All inverted, and 90% is just cheering on the Kill Gateses and the Fauci ouchies and this and that. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
you made me think of a funny name, like trespassers, right? You got the Jehovah's Witness, but what about the Rona Witness? Like CDC coming to your door to, hey, free complimentary nasal swab. No thanks.
I
And I'm
actually,
not down with that ethanol oxide shit that's on those things that actually cause cancer, apparently. On those nasal swabs. Don't know if you heard about that, but yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna
Hell, I
say?
actually met someone who had a daughter who was working with the CDC as an actual COVID responder. And
Hmm.
when he was describing to me what she did, I'm like, how can you as a parent have the respect for yourself to even tell that to anybody? Because
Mm.
he's telling me this, and like, when you're talking to someone and you have to like catch yourself, like, man, this person's consciousness is so low, like I can't even talk to them. Like that's how it was because he's bragging as though this job is so respectable. I'm like, man, she's infringing on people's rights. And then like that's when you
Yeah,
have
they
to
don't know
catch
better,
yourself. Yeah, because like shit would get into a fist fight and then the guns would come out, because you're talking about like I get all that shit, man. But it's like I find it no different than when you're in a conversation and then a parent says, well, my child just joined the Air Force or joined them, and I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the definition of a bad parent. Like why would you even say that? Like if I was a parent and my child told me that, I would probably go blow my. I think I honestly would go commit suicide. I would blow my fucking brains out possibly
Yeah,
because that would
especially,
mean
the
I
way you'd
fail
be,
as a parent.
teaching them and stuff. Yeah, it would be a
Yeah,
huge failure. Yeah.
yeah. Like that just means you failed as a parent. Like in my eyes, I mean, like freaking, and not only in my eyes, in the grand scheme of things, because you're just producing a fucking order follower.
Yeah.
So
And on the medical order followers, they've been indoctrinated on a whole
yeah,
nother level, and they got and it creates a whole nother level of this ego identification and attachment to, like, oh, I got my medical degree because I spent $100,000 throughout 10 years to get this fucking shit. So I'm gonna ride this shit out to the death of me, kind of thing.
oh
And
yeah,
nothing you're gonna say to the contrary is gonna take that away from me because I need my accolades and this is me. I worked for this so hard, and that's part of
yeah,
the fear that a lot of people actually have embedded deep down inside them in their subconscious, if you will, that they've just shrouded with willful ignorance of these things, and they think they're fucking heroes a lot of times when it's a shame that the inversions and perversions of these things and the occult mockery of it all, and these people are responsible for the third leading cause of death after they've taken the Hippocratic Oath. I don't know how that really works. The third leading cause of death is medical whatevers, mishaps, malpractices,
yeah.
prescription deaths, and all this
Accidents.
other shit
Yeah,
from the
accidents.
pharmakia
Yeah,
of the biotechnological fucking sorcery and the needlecraft and all that shit.
yeah. But like you
All that
said,
stuff's gonna weigh you down, man. It's not just the heavy metals or the nanotech or whatever. It's just it's gonna cause disharmony within one's body. A lot of this allopathic medicine. Yes, it can help one, during certain dire times for certain things. But yeah, a lot of these come with side effects, or let's just call them secondary effects, right?
mhm.
I mean, how many commercials do people see on TV with whatever the fuck new? And it seems like some of these demonic entity type of names for these
Yeah,
prescription pills, whatever. That 30 seconds of fast talk and as if just because they disclose that in a commercial, side effects may include even cancer sometimes. Like, how is that fucking marketable or even sellable? How does that pass? How is it even available for human consumption?
that's dark magic
But
right there.
anyways, not to dwell on that, but
That's the
it's
sorcerer
not a line
because
of
the
natural law,
sorcerer,
yo. That's all.
it's like the sorcerer is telling you what this thing's going to do to you, and telling you what they're doing to you. So it's like, okay, if I'm telling you and you're still doing it, then according to the sorcerers, her mentality, there's no karmic, hell consequences from that, which we all know that's a fucking lie. But yeah, that's how the sorcery happens, and how they think that they can somehow not be held responsible, which technically they are not, because they aren't actually doing it, but they are still, creating action and manifestation that is leading to that. So they still share some, have responsibility. It is the order follower, it is the useful idiot. It is that collectivist. Sure. Yep. That goes out and just does it. And but see, like, this is the mind control, because just like with every other situation throughout, history, is they all thought that they was doing the right thing. They all thought that they was doing the right thing. You didn't know that you was doing the right thing. Oh, you thought that you was doing the right thing. There's a complete huge difference, Hell, I could be thinking I'm doing the right thing as I'm going and murdering someone, but no, no, you have to know what true right is. And it goes back to the mind, to knowledge, is the knowledge has to be present there first in order for us to create right action. So if you want to talk about not being weighed down, well, what's one of the biggest things that weighs people down? Bad information. Because that bad information goes in, it's going to create bad forms of thought. It's going to create bad forms of behavior. It's going to create bad action. And that bad action is going to weigh you down. It's going to create, it's going to create more chaos in the physical realm. So yeah, bad information is one of the main things that is holding us down, because in this age of technology, when we have information at our fingertips, it is also so much easier to just flood, servers with bad information. And that's what we see, like in the whole TikTok, Facebook, like straight Instagram, it's just a flood of bad information as far as satanic.
A lot of podcasts out there, even a lot of alternative media with all the gatekeepers, posers, fucking, controlled opposition, all that shit, or just, all these limited hangouts anyways, it's get a good couple snippets of, some good information. Sure, we can all agree with that, but then, poison the well with whatever the fuck and waste a lot of people's time with, a lot of minutia or trivial stuff or whatever.
Yep. They don't really get to the heart of the matter. They don't really get to the cause. They just think that it's just Bill Gates and the World Economic Forums. They still think that the Great Reset is external. No, motherfucker, the Great Reset is internal. They are resetting you internally. Like what you think the jabs are doing. They are resetting people internally. They are resetting the human genome. They're resetting your consciousness. They're resetting your DNA. They're resetting the way that you think, which there may not even be free will in the equation by the time they're done, at least according to what they have planned.
Yeah, so, with the transhumanist agenda. And all that shit, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an external reset. You can't have external reset without having an internal reset first, because that would violate
they understand
the principle of correspondence. Yeah,
more than most.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's law of correspondence, and they know these things more than most people even know them, For sure, yeah. Sorry to cut you off, brother. Keep going.
Oh, no, man, freaking, you're good. Hell, freaking, I'm excited right now because, we're talking about Hamayat, we're talking about, her natural law, and we're also bringing in a lot of other, topics that are twined with these topics. Yeah. Because I mean, hell, we could talk about, how shadow work too, because that is an aspect that still so many people don't want to do, so do they not want to know about natural law, but we talking about taking her responsibility. That's only going to happen if we go within ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that temple within oneself, if you're still holding on to some skeletons in the closet or whatever cool phrase is used in context of that, and voila, that's part of the work, and just airing out that dirty laundry and whatever, shadow work, man. Going back to just what you've experienced in the past, all that stuff, and being able to understand your wrongdoings and all that stuff, and a lot more to it than that. So I've just been been speaking on shadow work so much lately. I'm almost kind of like not even in a mood to
That's a
talk
good
about
thing.
it. But
Yeah, I know.
but what I wanted to mention also, real quick. I mean, like, yeah, we got to make these apologies and repentances and all these things, and going through that marvelous apophatic inquiry. And I know you know a lot about that, and just like the apocalypse within ourselves. And so, like, well, we got these apos, without something, and the logos for apologize. We're going to take back the word and the actions that we kind of did, and kind of, all right, I'm not going to do this anymore. That's what a real, apology is trying to recognize the wrong and try to make it, not try, but make that promise of, and keeping true to the word, like you said in the beginning, of not doing that again in the future. That these are just lessons we're supposed to learn. All right, this is what is good. This action resulted in a good result. Okay, cool. This one didn't, or whatever. Even though people have a really skewed version of what is good or not, of course. But yeah, apophatic. It's a beautiful thing. And the apocalyptine.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up the word hell, hell apology, because that's what it is about. Is if we're talking about being honest with ourselves, you are going to have to make that hell apology. You're going to have to admit that you have done wrong. You may have been wrong. You may have thought something that was wrong, but it's not about you being so much or hard on yourself, or you being heavy on yourself. You've got to let that go. And remember, I said earlier, we've got to let it go. There has to be that release. You have to have that internal, release. Be able to live with yourself. Be able to deal with yourself, because something may have happened that you may not have been able to cope with at that particular time. And that's really what it boils down to. Is a lot of things happen to us, and we was not able to cope with it. We didn't know how to cope with it. We didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know how to experience it. So what we did was what it's just a natural defense mechanism. Is we suppressed it. We pushed it down. We hid it underneath the rug. We put something over top of it. We occulted it. And that's really what we are saying now. Is all of this information has to come to the surface. It has to be decoded. It has to be brought to the conscious mind, not just on an individual level, but also on a collective level. Like all of this information from man's history, darkness, trauma, hell, abandonment, it all has to be brought to the surface, because we cannot move to that next level. We cannot move to that next stage in consciousness or ascension, whatever people call it, whatever the hell you think that word means, or in evolution. Because I always saw like evolution as an increase in consciousness, not just an increase in like physicality. If there's no increase in consciousness, because as you have an increase in consciousness, you have more free will choice, you have more responsibility, you have more creative capacity. We're not seeing that. So it can't be an increase in evolution, because I see a decrease in consciousness. So
Yeah, me too, man. Unfortunately, even in the so-called truth-seeking community, that's why things are so convoluted the way they are, with all these psyops and all that other stuff. A lot of discord going on with that. But yeah,
yeah. You see a lot of people
yeah,
just
it really
worrying
does
about
seem like
stuff.
people are just gotten stupider sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the freedom
It's
community,
unfortunate.
you see a lot of people worrying about stuff that doesn't really lead toward freedom.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I keep mentioning like priorities. Like not just in one's personal life of, yeah, I gotta get that job. I gotta prioritize my life. Yeah, sure, do those things. Do it for the greater good of yourself, and hopefully for others.
Right.
Hopefully there is
Yeah.
those trickle down effects. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
I
It's like the
lost it.
people who
So
just want to it's like the people who who just want to prep and focus on like the end game goal, but they're not really putting their true focus in the mental preps, in the psychological preps, in the spiritual preps. Planting the seeds here, and trying to spread the information here. You know, um, it's it's a balance, man, and that's the thing. It is we're so divided. You got one realm that are just stuck in conspiracies. You got one realm that just focus on, oh, there's going to be no food, so just store up all the food. It's not about still trying to educate people. Then you got one people who think that they're so enlightened that they're literally about to fall off the planet because their consciousness is so high. And then you have another group of people, who are just into the whole guns, aspect and the whole freaking patriotism. They don't want to understand that the external authority of man is slavery. Now, they don't want to understand that external government is slavery. And then you have the ones who know it all online, will respond in comments, tell you that you're doing a good job, but they aren't doing anything. Which there's too many of those people. They'll tell you great job, enjoy the video, and then they just go right back to being enslaved.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I got love for these folks. I got love for
Oh
in the
yeah,
end, we gotta.
I still got love for them.
But you're absolutely right, and I kind of refer to them as kind of like tourists in the truth movement or whatever, or like this ain't a spectator sport, as we've heard before. And yeah, even if people don't want to participate and get their name out there, or they don't feel like they have a voice and be on camera or whatever, there's so many different things folks can do. Y'all
Yep.
can be making memes all day, at least once a day. It's really not that hard. Or little
You can
things like,
support the
hey,
ones who are
actually,
doing it too. Yep.
that's exactly what I was going to get to. Like, if you got a little money to support folks, that helps out people beyond what a lot of folks, really estimate with all that. So yeah, like that's part of, helping the great work as well, because this is like a full-time job for you, isn't it? More
It
or less,
can
but yeah, it's
be.
like countless
It
hours.
can be.
Yeah.
And then too, like if you have a skill, like like maybe you have some time at editing videos, like maybe you are good at creating things online. Like maybe you can start to reach out to maybe like do some kind of services online for other people who are trying to get involved. Like there's a lot of things that you can do online as far as content creation to help other people if you aren't in a position to do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
obviously sharing, great works of people,
oh, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I know there are a lot of people out there that are sitting on videos, that are sitting on like a wealth of knowledge. Please post that shit online because the more information and knowledge that is out there, then the easier it's going to be for us to spread this knowledge. And we've seen all the videos that have been taken down. And I know on my Odyssey channel, when I first started, I was uploading a lot of videos that were banned on other platforms. And then also I was noticing that there were like 5, 6, 7 other channels that were doing the same thing. And that's been 2 years. So just think of all the videos that we was at least able to re-upload that people have been able to
Yeah.
educate themselves on, because we want to maintain our teacher's legacy too. We had Jordan Maxwell, pass away. We still want to maintain his
Right.
legacy. We still have to spread, his videos. We have to maintain their legacy. That's how we honor our teachers. That's how we honor our ancestors. We maintain and they live through us by our words, by our deeds, by our actions. So it is important for us to constantly keep re-uploading these videos. And that's how we keep that cycle of information flowing. And that's how we keep that light shining. Because if that light dies out, then how can we ever truly create any change if we cannot educate ourselves?
Yeah. And it's we got to stay persistent and consistent as best we can, and not not be discouraged, during these draconian days of what in the real fuck of everything, right? And yeah, the censorship is super real. We're both compromised to a degree with all that shit. But yeah, it's been great to see people, repopulating all the videos and censored stuff, on, BooTube, whatever, onto things like BitChute and Odyssey for sure, LBRY, whatever. And like even you and I, we might just get a couple dozen views for certain videos, after a year or whatever, but they're always going to be there for reference. And sometimes we never know in regards to like the view counts, because YouTube fucks with that in people's,
Yeah.
channels with all that. And for folks that also post things on Facebook, I mean, feel free to, share these types of videos as well. And even if you're only getting like a handful of likes or barely anything, sometimes and I've had people tell me like, hey, Derek, man, thank you so much for posting this stuff. I just had to send you a private message and let you know that, I really appreciate you, but I
Yeah.
can't, I don't want to put a like on any of this controversial stuff for, certain reasons or whatever. And I get that, but that just, dawned on me like, okay, so people are actually listening that we don't
Yeah.
really know about, or are aware of, right? So yeah, we got to keep these things into consideration, especially when we feel like demoralized. I mean, shit, I've fucking been there so many times in regards to like, wow, okay, like this is such powerful stuff I just uploaded, but where's the viewership kind of thing, like
Yeah.
how can
Been there.
we
Yeah.
market this better and all that shit, like fuck, But yeah, we
Yeah.
just got to keep on keeping on, and right. So
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I've gone through a lot of Mark Pastor's work. I should say a lot. I've gone through all of Mark Pastor's work like twice. I've gone through his podcast twice. I've gone through all of his presentations twice. I've watched his natural law presentation 12 times. I watched his documentary like 4 times. But when he said this takes a lot of willpower and dedication and hard work, I didn't quite understand exactly what he meant until I started doing this. It takes an enormous amount of willpower, like dedication and effort, because it's so easy to just stop, but it's so much harder to keep pushing, especially when you see, like, hey, your videos may not be getting as many views, but then again, it's you have to think to yourself, well, am I really putting out content for the views, or am I just putting out, the content because it's the right thing to do? And that's what always, how pulls me back into, how the fight is. I'm not pushing for the views. How that's what the group does. How that's what the collective does. Do you like my video? Hit thumbs up. It's like, man, that sounds so fucking kindergarten. I'm just putting out the shit because, that's the moral responsibility that I have and service the truth. So that right there always kind of pulls me back into, have my center and have my balance. But it can be hard, and I definitely understand and sympathize with anyone who feels that way, because it's almost like we're fighting a tremendous tide and we keep getting swept back to shore every fucking night.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Well said.
Yeah, so I know
But
we've
it's
been going
not
for almost
being
2
washed
hours.
up on the beaches of disparity, but
Yeah. Yeah, we've been going for almost 2 hours, so hell,
Oh,
I'm
cool,
starting to
yeah.
get hungry. So yeah, you got any
That's
closing
funny because
words?
yeah, and this is coming from a man who's, dude, honestly, I basically eat about 2 full meals a day at
Oh
best.
yeah, I heard you. Yeah,
And there's a lot of times where I just feel the urge to just want to be in that light body, and I don't want to eat anything. Like I'm on that kind of frequency a lot of times. It's almost 4 o'clock today. All I
yeah.
had was a couple sips of juice. Nothing. I haven't eaten anything.
Mm.
It can be like that for me so many days, but whatever. Keeping it light as a feather in any kind of weather, no matter
Oh
the
no,
endeavor. And
this was actually a
not gonna
good
be all
topic.
clever, but
Yeah, nah, because
But yeah. So how do you want to conclude this? I'll do the plug-in stuff later, but yeah.
Oh no,
Um,
no. To kind of get back on the whole eating aspect, hell, I forgot that we had did that that video on LIBERcast, and we kind of talked about that,
yeah.
and that was actually a
Mm,
good talk because I think a lot of people do kind of get stuck into like the whole veganism. That's if that's the way you want to live your life,
yeah.
that's one thing. But I do think that there is a way that we can live some kind of symbiotic relationship with animals and still provide the whole love and still, possibly use their raw materials in a right loving way. Like after they have at least, have made sure that they've gotten to it first. But it was a very enlightening, conversation. And I think it was one that should, like get people to kind of think outside, like of the box because in the natural law community, there is, like, oh, it's got to be, held this one diet and it is the only way. And it's like, we can't like we don't want to appear to fall into any forms of religions, like it's got to be this one way, like so.
Yeah, then it can just take on
Yeah, because it
cult-like
just creates more in-game
tendencies in
fighting.
it, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. But yeah, and what I just try to keep it real and understanding the grand scheme of things. That yeah, we're in a fallen time matrix, and that can be interpreted in many ways. But we're just really severely disconnected from source. We are not self-perpetuating life force beings at this present time and moment. We do need certain foodstuffs to, sustain our lives. And
Mhm.
there are certain blood types, if you will, even, and other just body types, whatever, that actually do need, meat as a source of, energy in their diet, whatever. C'est la vie, like we're not all 12-stranded, hyperboreans that are just breatharians, right? That's, in the ancient future, but we'll get there. Keep chipping away, but yeah, keep it light out there. Try to live a more like modest lifestyle in regards to just everyday interactions even sometimes. Like there's so much shit being thrown in our direction. It's like we got to, have those, force fields, if you will, for lack of a better term, and just being able to easily deflect, all that bullshit malarkey out there. Because we know better, and we embody that, and we're just all that shit ain't even fucking with our frequency, anyways. So that's kind of where I'm at with everything. I ain't fucking bulletproof. I ain't trying to, talk about some grandiose idea of myself. No, I'm just as human as the next. Still trying to walk up Jacob's ladder, whatever the hell, level up, and keep on doing the right thing. You know.
Yeah. Hell, I hear you on that. Yeah, I'm the same way. People would be surprised how long man has been trying to make sense and depict this thing we call reality since day one, So hell, we are no different. We're trying to make sense of all this craziness too, So um hopefully it's these discussions like that, how that can bring more light to these topics. But yeah, totally understand.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, folks will feel lightened up about this. But if not, hey, honestly, check out Brandon's beautiful presentation on Maat, and there's so much more to it than that. And you definitely touched on a lot of things that folks can learn a lot more. And I mean, I didn't really touch on it much at all, especially in the beginning. But yeah, I did a almost 2 hour long video of my own, which is just music, but also threw in some of those wonderful audio samples from the likes of Mark Passio and Manly P. Hall and others who have done some great work in regards to teaching me about the essence of Maat and her principles and all that good stuff. And yeah, throw in some interesting visuals to all that as well. And I was listening to that, kind of getting into the vibe and spirit, as well as going back to your presentation before our chat today. And dude, there's so many songs that I selected for that project that just get the tears flowing, straight up. But yeah, that's been my specialty of mixing truth-infused tapestries to help spread awareness and love and higher vibes and all that good stuff. So yeah, check it out sometime if you like. It ain't on YouTube because of things that we mentioned in the past, but thankfully there's the good folks at BitChute and Odyssey and all that other good stuff. And yeah, you can find us on there and try to get there more early and more often because yeah, it's cracking. There's so much more information over there that you just can't find on YouTube anymore. It's just not there. So if you really want that good, yeah.
Now,
Come on over to the wild side. Just kidding, but yeah. So.
One question I wanted to ask you, because, you know, like I've listened to a lot of your mixtapes and I love them. And
Really, thanks.
I noticed like your genre is from like late 90s to like late 2000s, you know, because you seem to be around my age because I'm 36. So like, how did you keep like all of that music stored, or like freaking like, because I'm like, man, like it's just, it's like it would seem like it would be a lot, and then to like just keep it all like collected and to find it, because it's like certain verses, you know, like from a song. So it's like how did you manage all of that, man? Because like I know that like freaking ain't easy.
When I moved to France in 2010, and when I was preparing to leave, you know, I was like, damn, you know, like realizing that music was going to be my best friend out there, pretty much. Going to a new country and all this stuff. Of course, I had, you know, love of my life and all that good stuff, and that was fine. That was more than enough for me. But you know, it's nice to have something, you know, that's, you know, reminiscent and, you know, hometown friendly, if you will. And growing up in the Bay Area, there's so many conscious hip hop artists out there and other musical genres, of course. And, you know, it sprung up from, you know, like even the Black Panthers and all this stuff, and, you know, civil rights movements, and so many things within the local area had a, you know, huge influence on these things. But to, you know, make it short, and just like I had all these, like, I'm sure your music has been stolen many times growing up or whatever. You got your CDs jacked or whatever,
Yeah.
even tape cassettes. And you realize, like, okay, like just like we were talking about with our material, like every video that we're doing right now, we gotta have like backups on backups and all this shit, right? So that's what I was doing already with music and that sort. So I had, you know, a stack of, my all my MP3s, and I got a new computer, and I just a lot of free time I had there because I went to France in a wheelchair after doing knee surgery. I used my free time pretty wisely, I guess. So just one of those things that, you know, you wanted to get around to one time in your life when you had some free time, and, you know, you're not so fatigued by the rat race, wearing a sad face and all that shit. But yeah, just I took the time, and like being on a Mac for the first time, and going through iTunes, and yeah, just taking a liking to it, and just organizing all my music and listening to it as well. And like when I had my awakening, like I had my inner ear wide the fuck open, and also just like my memory as well of things that I've heard. And I remember a lot of these, you know, conscious hip hop tracks that spoke about these things that I was already, you know, and it's like I was aware of them, and I had inklings of, you know, Freemasonry and all this stuff when, you know, listening to this stuff in later years of probably maybe high school. But all that shit goes over your head if you're not, you know, keyed into these things, right? But
Yeah.
later on, you're like, and dude, I had tears of joy and just like all types of emotion, you know, listening to that music after, you know, coming into that full awareness of things. Well, not full, but, you know, higher awareness. And I'm like, wow, like these guys knew what the fuck was up, like, you know, like before like the explosion of the internet type of shit. Like, and that just intrigued me so much. And just I was compiling playlists already on certain themes, but I just took it to a whole new level to, you know, really have in mind of just like soundtracks to awakenings, and fucking, you know, we're going to be talking about this subject, you know, on the esoteric side of, or any side. And I love this medium of expression and the format that I've had, I mean, like, yeah, the DJs are going to do a set for an hour long or whatever, but how many are actually going to be the DJ selector coming a little bit better with the quality of sound and the lyrics, like all killer, no fucking filler type of shit, you know? None of this, low level vibe stuff. When we're talking about material stuff, appeal to ego, appeal to, whatever you want to disrespectfully call women as well, all that shit.
Yeah.
But no, let's keep it more on the spiritual side of things. And yeah, we're going to dive into this conspiratorial stuff. But yeah, and that was just something that I found to be that word sound power is so fucking powerful. And I don't really know of a music genre that hits on it the way it does, and there's magic within all genres of music for sure. And I had a great discussion with Fred about these things on LIBERcast. But yeah, man, it was a hell of a journey, and realizing that, dude, that it's not good enough. I got to get my name and voice out there as well. I got my AwakenYaMind moniker, and that's all cool and this and that, but we're still living in a state of slavery. I'm still realizing that, even people close to me that have followed, some of my musical projects and listening to them, they're either not impressed or didn't really heed the messages that were in there. I mean, yeah, of course things can still go over people's heads, but it's like, sometimes I'm like blatantly spelling things out. Like, yes, government is fucking slavery type of shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was heartbreaking in and of itself, Even my ex-wife didn't really catch on to even like the geoengineering stuff, even though I was telling her about all these stuff. And hey, you see that, airplane diarrhea in the sky, whatever. It's like,
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, man, you
Some
just keep
people-
on keeping on, and no matter what people say or take it, we're gonna take, or I mean, what, turn the other cheek or whatever, the right way. And just come anew. There's so many different approaches we can have at it. So take a stab at it. Dag nabbit. So yeah, that's the, what is it in Rosicrucianism, where like that sacred term, the verb, try, right? If we're not going to try, it's not going to get done, So
Yep.
we got to break that fear, break the conditioning, breaking the whatever mental chains, emotional chains that are kind of holding you back from, stepping into your greatness.
Yep. And chains are what hold you down, and chains are what prevent you from being as light or living as light as a feather. And before we go, I wanted to let you know your natural law mix. I will put that in my top 5 of videos as far as importance, as far as understanding natural law, because it comes from the hip hop and rap, and it's just so many verses, and it's just it's so in your face. And then you have Manly P. Hall, you have Mark Passio, you have Seth Boza, you have a Native American elder who's speaking some very, very important words, and that video right there is very important. So I'll make sure to post it, and I hope that everyone will go out and check it, and check out some of your other videos, because you put a lot of esoteric mix, a lot of playlists, and it's all forms of topics in music. And that's why I had to ask that question, like, man, how did you keep up with all of that music? Because I know it took a while. I know it took a while.
Yeah, I was kind of a hip hop nerd back in the day and stuff. Not a motherfucking wigger or whatever the hell, I wasn't an inspiring rapper or whatever. I wasn't aspired to do that. But yeah, I love it. I love the conviction behind it and all that. And man, like, yeah, your words touched my soul, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, that natural law mix does touch on Maat a good amount as well. There's that. It's more of, of how humanity is, going in the wrong direction towards Ishfet and all that stuff. But yeah, I definitely love the teachings of, Native Americans and stuff growing out. I mean, all over America, North America, that exists in Canada as well. I don't know if you know, where you grew up had that in any kind of curriculum or community settings. There's like Indian guides out here, or even like Cub Scouts. Even though Cub Scouts is not really, you know,
Yeah.
that's like whitewashed version of what you know. But we can align to like a lot of these Native American teachings and animism as well that, you know, fall under a lot of the natural law stuff. So yeah, there's so many ways, and it's so beautiful that way. And just we got to take in the good and kind of weed out the bad, like you were saying, and using that disciplined discernfulness. But yeah, Brandon, it's been a real pleasure talking with you, and learning a lot from you and everything. It's been great.
Yeah. And Derek Helfer, I want to thank you for reaching out to me, and I definitely want to have you on again. You know, maybe we can dive more in the music. You know, because music has always been one of those things that has inspired me, and music is one of the best ways to plant seeds as far in knowledge in people's minds. So,
real talk, man. Yeah, I would love to do that, man.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But make sure that everyone goes and checks out Derek's work. I'll make sure to have everything linked in the description, and he'll make sure you go and check out the Freedom Under Natural Law 2 conference. Those videos are still online, and please go and check out the Shattering the Illusion conference that is coming up this Saturday. Peace out, and please enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, government is slavery.
Lex Rex, yo.
Symmetry, it's all within me. Sacred like an eye in a shade tree. I finally touched upon purity, so I stand in victory. Only me, only me, only me. Internal symmetry, it's all within me. Sacred like an eye in a shade tree. I finally touched upon my purity, so I stand in victory. Only me, only me, only me. Internal symmetry, it's all within me. Sacred like an eye in a shade tree. I finally touched upon my purity, so I stand in only me, only me. The basis of tapping into your own soul takes internal balance, struggle, all taking place in existence. Since all takes motion, all must push, all must exert force. For without force there's no motion, and all is peace. Hate tap, and all is peace. Ashe, and all is peace. Internal symmetry, internal symmetry. I finally touched upon my soul. Following my morning star.